18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 1, 2, 3rd of October, 3rd of October, 3rd of August, 3rd of August, a letter surfaces. Yeah. It is dated the 3rd of August. Huh?
Nobody has spent time. No rush now.
It is with. But it is within
one
the 90
moment,
days.
please.
Madam Speaker.
One moment, please.
Madam Speaker, I'm pointing out.
One moment, please. Is due to expire within not more than 90 days. Okay, this is what I'm reading.
Yes.
Anyway,
Madam Speaker.
And can you get on with your point?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
The business at hand has to go on.
No, but that's exactly what I'm saying, Madam Speaker. That it was within 90 days. It was the Prime Minister who exercised his preference, given the constitutional authority he had, to start the process later than 90 days. So he says within 90 days. So, Madam Speaker, he could have started any time after the 4th of July. He chose to begin. He chose to begin. He chose to begin on the 3rd of August when he wrote the letter. No, hold on. Let me finish my point. But he comes here this morning, Madam Speaker, and he tries to suggest that it is as a result of the leader of the opposition not getting back to the Prime Minister by a certain time that the process is where it is. That's totally unacceptable, because he checked the time that elapsed after the 17th, and he came somewhere to the early part of September. When did he advise you that there was no agreement between himself and the leader of the opposition? It then came to the 20th of September. But, Madam Speaker, all that now is set aside because you have advised this Honorable House in the process on the 20th of September that there is no agreement between the Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition. So the process must continue. And the continuation of the process is at 19.4, where it mandates a 14-day period of nomination, after which there shall be an election of a president. We are seeking now, convene this meeting of the House, to have a president elected within the nomination period, which is, as far as we on this side are concerned, completely unconstitutional. There is no authorization or assignment of responsibility for it under the Constitution, and we should not do it. We should adjourn this House to Friday, come back here on Friday, allow the nomination period to conclude, because yes, Madam Speaker, I'm hearing some talk from the other side indicating that members of this House do not understand what we're talking about. The Constitution, not Lennox Linton, not Roosevelt Skerrit, not any one of the members inside here, prescribes a 14-day period for nominations. In that 14-day period, the Prime Minister can nominate someone, the leader of the opposition can nominate someone, and any 3 members of this House acting together by writing under their hands can nominate somebody to be the president. That period has not elapsed, and the Constitution provides no authority for any election of a president within the nomination period prescribed by the Constitution. And so our actions today will be ultra vires. The Constitution will be a violation of the constitutional provisions, and I'm asking us not to proceed in that direction. Do the right thing and reschedule the sitting to consider the election of a president on Friday of this week.
That is your responsibility, you, to advise the Prime Minister properly.
Madam Speaker, the Constitution has been referred to. It's also been referred to as the supreme law, and that is indeed the case. Section 18 of the Constitution provides, Madam Speaker, there shall be a President of Dominica who shall be elected by the House and shall hold office for a term of 5 years. There shall be a President of Dominica. Madam Speaker, Section 19, which is referred to, goes on and specifically deals with the nomination process, and in particular for the expedition. I shall go straight to section 19, subsection 4, which has already been referred to. and the 14-day period referred to in that provision, during which nominations may be made. And as the provision provides, Madam Speaker, it is may be made, not shall be made. So, of course, the Prime Minister, Leader of the Opposition, and any free members, as has already been referred to, may or may not make nominations. We know that the Prime Minister has provided a nomination. We know that the Leader of the Opposition has said that he has no nomination and will not be making any nomination. So we can take him out of the equation. So two of the three are out of the equation. The only remaining party, so to speak, is the free members of Parliament, who are provided for in Section 19, subsection 4. I just make that point, Madam Speaker, by way of passing. And I also want to make clear that the subsection says what it says. There is no dispute about the 14 days. The fact of the matter is, Madam Speaker, that a constitution has to be interpreted and construed in a way that allows it to serve as a living document that can provide guidance and ensure that the society that we live in is not run in a chaotic or anarchic manner. What is being proposed, Madam Speaker, by the Leader of the Opposition is that a situation that we find ourselves in, which is a situation that we do not have 14 days between the date on which, Madam Speaker, you announced that there was no agreement between the Leader of the Opposition and Prime Minister. What is being proposed is that we should remain for a period, virtually a week, if I understand it, without a president. And, Madam Speaker, is it seriously being proposed that that is what the framers of the Constitution intended? That the framers of the Constitution intended that a state should be without a president for a period, and not an insignificant period? That all of the functions that a president is called upon and may be called upon, we know not, for example, whether a storm may arrive here before Friday, for example, to take one obvious example, and the involvement of the president, who is the only person who can proclaim, should that be necessary, would not be available. There are a number of other reasons, Madam Speaker, why it is essential that there be a president, not least of which is that I am not clear how it is you can have a state without a president. The structure of our society. Madam Speaker, I am being asked across the House why we didn't act earlier. The letter that I have seen a copy of from the Leader of the Opposition to the Prime Minister stated, Madam Speaker, among other things, that the Leader of the Opposition for election as President, a candidate for joint nomination, Madam Speaker, this is the Leader of the Opposition letter, a candidate for joint nomination by the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition for election as President will be proposed, not maybe, will be proposed at the end of the period of consultation within the next 15 days. Madam Speaker, as far as I'm aware, from the mouth of the Leader of the Opposition himself, no nomination of a candidate for President has been provided by the Leader of the Opposition. So, Madam Speaker, moving along, Madam Speaker, moving along and ignoring, Madam Speaker, the atmospheric demolition. There is, as I've indicated, there is no dispute that Section 19.4 refers to a period of 14 days. The issue, Madam Speaker, is that mandatory, or is it otherwise, as certainly as we submit, declaratory? Now, there's nothing in that provision, Madam Speaker, that says that that is a provision that is mandatory. Nothing. Read it. Madam Speaker, listen to the member for Roseau North talking about people who are not qualified. I was going to use a word similar to I was going to use a word, Madam Speaker, that is appropriate to people who beg for food. It begins with B, Madam Speaker, and it ends with M. But I will not use it, Madam Speaker, because it's not parliamentary. But, Madam Speaker,
Please.
Did you hear him?
heard me loud and clear.
The member for Roseau North. The member for Roseau North. Will you keep quiet? Will you please keep quiet? You are the member for Roseau North. The member for Roseau North.
Sit down.
The member for Roseau North.
Sit down.
Take your terms. Member of opposition. Please take your seat, otherwise. No. You have to behave yourself. You have no behavior. I will decide who is out of order, and I'm declaring you so. Please contain yourself. Go have a drink of water or something.
You're right.
Please.
You're right to say unqualified. They let you off. They let you off.
Please keep quiet.
You're right. They let you off.
Please keep quiet. Please keep quiet. And the member for Salisbury. Really? On what grounds? No, just one moment, please. I want the members of the opposition to understand. When your leader of the opposition was speaking, nobody disturbed him. Can you afford the courtesy? I know it's a strain on you, member for Roseau North. But drink some water, it will help you. Go drink some ice water.
Madam Speaker.
Now, I'm asking you for the last time to be quiet or leave the chamber. Leave the chamber if you cannot be quiet.
You're a disgrace to your brother, boy, when you well.
And if you think that I'm going to permit you to disturb what is proceeding in this house, I'm not going to have it. It's not going to happen. The member for Salisbury.
Madam Speaker, with your leave, and I... Madam Speaker, your mic.
Remove yourself from the chamber and calm yourself down before you return. I will not be saying it again. I will ask the Sergeant at Arms to escort the members who disturb this house hereafter out.
Madam Speaker, thank you, Madam Speaker. You may wish to, your light, Madam Speaker, your mic.
Sergeant, will you escort the member for Roseau North outside, please? I warned you. Please out, please. Can you leave the chamber until you...
Leave, Gus. Why?
When you contain yourself, you can come back. Please go outside. No, the member is on his feet. You can't have two members on their feet. Take your seat, please. I'll call on you.
Yeah, Frenchman. Hello. Au revoir. À bientôt. Allez. Idiot.
No control of himself. Would you like to follow member for Salisbury?
Madam Speaker, I would ask, I mean, the members on the opposite side, I'm sure they will have an opportunity. I will make my contribution, and I'm sure they'll have an opportunity to say what they wish to say, and I think that is the manner in which I think we should conduct ourselves.
Just one moment. Members' phones are going off. You know that should not be. Continue, please.
Yeah, Madam Speaker, what I was saying when we were interrupted is that the 14-day period provided for in Section 19, subsection 4 of the Constitution is not in dispute. What we submit on this side is that the Constitution and every provision of the Constitution has to be interpreted and construed in accordance with norms and practice and judicial authority. Madam Speaker, we rely on the authority of the case of Russell, Randolph Russell, and others, but it's cited if anybody's looking for it.
Just one moment. The attorney on the opposition side, the member, can you provide him with a copy? Do you have a copy of the case in question? Would you like to get a copy?
Yeah, sure.
I have a copy. I think it's, as the attorney on the other side, I think he should have a copy of it. I'm going to let you have a copy of it, but I'd like to get it back. Where's the clerk? No, I just think that, you know, officer.
Madam Speaker, if I may just briefly.
No, we're dealing with one issue at a time.
It is the same issue, Madam Speaker. It is the same.
He's going to speak and I'm going to hear him. Give that to the member for me, please. I'm just asking you to peruse it briefly and have it handed back to me, member for Roseau South. The AG is on his feet. I will hear him out first. Your mic.
Since the member for Roseau South has been given a copy of the authority, as I indicated, it's the authority, Randolph Russell and others against the Attorney General of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's a 1995 case. It is, Madam Speaker, that case at page 134 and continuing through to page 135 at letter G, it's quite clear that where, as here, and that case was dealing with the situation of a constituency boundaries. St. Vincent's constitution is slightly different than ours. In essence, it provides, in respect to this provision, that where there's been a census, that the Constituency and Boundaries Commission must be appointed before a general election. There are other issues, but that's the substance of it. In that instance, there was no such appointment of a Constituency and Boundaries Commission before the calling of a general election. And the general election was challenged as being unlawful, being null and void. That's what essentially, there are other issues, but that is the nub of this authority, and in particular the paragraphs and pages that I've referred to. And it's stated, and I'll just read it briefly, not the whole thing. The question therefore arises whether it is concordant with judicial practice or principle to construe a constitutional or statutory provision as being mandatory in circumstances that applied there, which is the provision prescribes the formalities to be observed before or during the performance of an act in the execution of a public duty. 2, the act was performed without those formalities or in violation of the provision. 3, the nullification of the act would result in serious general public inconvenience and injustice to persons who had no control over those entrusted with the public duty. And 4, the nullification of the act would not promote the main object of the provision. And after consideration of the facts of that case and another case, which is Montreal Street Railway Company, Normandie 1917 appeals cases at page 170, and citing Sir Arthur Channel, who delivered the opinion of the board in that case, which stated as follows at page 176, open quote, when the provisions of a statute relate to the performance of a public duty, and the case is such that to hold null and void acts done in neglect of this duty would work serious general inconvenience or injustice to persons who have no control over those entrusted with the duty, and at the time would not promote the main object of the legislature. It has been the practice to hold such provisions to be directory only, the neglect of them, though punishable, not affecting the validity of the acts done. Madam Speaker, in short, that answers the point being made. So if, which is not conceded, but if, as the Leader of the Opposition contends, the convening of the House today is in contravention of Section 19, subsection 4, The authority that I've just cited provides, where the consequences are obvious, that that neglect is not such as to affect the validity of the acts done. Though if he wishes, and others, they may wish to impugn it, that's a matter for them. The authority goes on and states as follows at paragraph D. I discern no good reason why the judicial practice or principle expounded in that case, that's Montreal, should not be equally applicable to a constitutional provision, which of course this is. It goes on, and there's other matters which I'll leave open to those who wish to read, but it concludes in relation to that section. In these circumstances, it would be contrary to judicial practice or principle to construe subsections, it's 3D there, here it's 19.4, as being mandatory, in the sense that failure to comply therewith should be declared to have nullified. There it's a general election, here it's the election of a president. Madam Speaker, I could say more, but I would stop here and simply say that this authority is, in my respectful submission, clear authority dealing with a constitutional provision which was not complied with in the strict terms set out in the Constitution. This is a judicial authority from the Court of Appeal that in circumstances such as this, the proper construction of that provision is that it is declaratory and not mandatory.
Having read the case and having been convinced that these proceedings are lawful, I will now continue.
Madam Speaker, if I'm allowed, first of all, it's not fair to the opposition that an authority is brought before this honorable House and presented while the Attorney General was giving his presentation. I would not have had time to assimilate and distill.
Wait 1 minute. I didn't have to do what I did. I did it out of courtesy. One moment, please listen. I did this out of sheer courtesy so that you could take the name of the case and apprise yourself of the contents therein.
Yes, and the reason why we're in that situation, Madam Speaker, is
and let me tell you, I've heard from the members of the opposition,
yes,
and I'm allowing you just 1 more minute on your whatever you're talking about.
Madam
And
Speaker,
that we have to proceed with the business at hand.
very well, but by the admission of the Attorney General, we have a situation where this government has been very neglectful and reckless in its duties to the people of Dominica.
Speaker,
We would not have been,
Okay,
we
so
would
now
not
this
have
is
been in
not
that
referring to
situation.
anything here.
On a point of order.
Yes.
Yes.
Madam Speaker.
Okay. Then if the member is making a point on the case, that is why I gave it to him. Okay? As far as I'm concerned, I want to go ahead.
Madam Speaker, I ask that the record, I'm making it so it goes on the record, a point of order, and I would ask that the member, the honourable member of this House and an honourable member of the bar, I suspect that he would have no difficulty in withdrawing what he said.
Oh, I'm going to ask him too.
The Attorney General made no such declaration as he just said.
Okay.
Referred to contextualize a case.
You made some statements here. Are you going to withdraw it?
No, Madam Speaker, I'm not
Well,
going to
then take
withdraw
your
it.
seat. We will proceed now, please. Honorable members, before we proceed with the election of the president, I wish to make some remarks. First, I need to say that I have summoned this honorable House to meet under the jurisdiction vested in me under Standing Order 11.3, and I need to recall to members that what is happening today is a continuation of the process of 20th of September 2018, which was preceded by a letter from the Honorable Prime Minister, who informed me that there had been no agreement between the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition. You will recall at that meeting, I asked for nominees, and in fact, I received one nomination. It came from the Honorable Prime Minister, who nominated Mr. Charles Savary. I also received a letter from His Excellency Charles Savre indicating that he consented to his being nominated. One might well ask, why is there to be an election when there is one nominee? In this case, I would have to refer to the House to Section 19(5)(a) of the Constitution, which says, when the only candidate for election under subsection 5 of this section, which would be what we are dealing with at the moment, does not receive the vote of a majority of all the members of the House, the Speaker shall inform the House accordingly, and a new election shall be held, to which the provisions of subsection 4 and subsection 5 of this section shall mutas mutandis apply. Now all this means is that it is envisaged that even where there is only one candidate, because of the fact that it was not a joint nominee, there has to be an election so that the House itself is satisfied that that particular nominee meets with the approval of the House and by way of a majority vote. This is why we're here, and now I now ask the clerk to bring you the papers to show you, and to show you the bottle. Where is the bottle? Empty bottle in which the nominations will be placed so that we can have our election. Can indicate by putting your X on the ballot, not putting an X on the ballot, not putting any ballot in the bottle, but just to signify your approval, and we shall count the votes, and if the majority of the House agree, we will have to declare a president at the end of this activity. Now, there's also a subsection 5 that reads, where the only candidate for election under subsection 5 of this section does not receive the votes of a majority of all the members of the House, such and such will happen. So once we speak of the majority of all the members of the House, it is clear that not only elected members, but nominated members, that is the senators, are to be included in this vote-making exercise.
Madam Speaker, how does that reconcile with subsection 5, which has a different wording? The last lines of last two lines, all members of the House to have been duly elected. Those 5 words.
You're referring to which section?
Sub 5, Madam Speaker. So are we saying that where it's only one candidate, that all members, because
they need the majority of the House to approve of the person. That's how I take it to mean.
Because sub 5A says at the end, as you indicated, mutandis, says that subsections 4 and 5 of this section shall mutatis mutandis apply. I'm going to say I would prefer, suggest that the elected members be proceeded with. I don't see that it does any prejudice to those of us who are not elected not to vote for the president, but it could be called into question if those who may not be entitled to vote will.
If I'm to follow precedents of times past, which we had delved into, on the occasion, on the 4 occasion, I think this is the 5th occasion in which I am, if you like, presiding over an election of a president. I think there were 2 occasions when it was unanimous, or 1 occasion it was unanimous. No. And the last occasion, yes, indeed, I was just going to point that out to you, okay? And so I would consider that all members are given the ballot paper, which the clerk has done, I believe. Okay. Right. So I'm asking members to vote now. Pen on their desk. I'm asking you to vote in the traditional way. You put an X. Pardon? Well, and just fold the paper in two, and the clerk will collect it. When every member has voted, has filled out their ballot, the clerk will collect, and it will be folded in two and placed in the bottle. The bottle itself has a very interesting history. Clerk has reported to me as follows. Members present. Government side, 20, 2 being absent. I'll come to that when I make my announcements, Vice Speaker. Members of the opposition, all absent. The clerk has reported 20 people voted and yes to the president. So it's a unanimous vote for His Excellency Charles Sapre. And it is my honor to declare that His Excellency Charles Sapre shall be the next president of the Commonwealth of Dominica. We have a couple items on the order paper, which we will run through quickly. Clerk.
Announcement by Speaker.
Okay, I have a couple announcements, which I will make very quickly. The first is that I received a letter from the PS, the Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Lestrade Wyke, Ministry of Health and Social Services, to say that Honorable Ivor Stevenson is still on medical leave and was seeking permission, which has been granted, for him to be absent from this meeting, I should say. I also received a letter from the member himself, Honorable Reggie Ostry, seeking permission to be out of state for this meeting, and I have granted such permission. I also have another letter which I need to read because I think sometimes when persons who are responsible for situations, such as I am for matters concerning the House, listen to members, particularly from a particular side of the House, making statements which I have letters to refute, I feel obliged to bring the attention to the House the contents of such letters. One such situation is when I was overseas, when I heard the leader of the opposition reporting through the media that at the last sitting of the House, before he even rose to present his motion, the member for Portsmouth, the Minister of Planning, Trade, rose to adjourn the House sine die even before he could put his motion forward. I was totally bemused because on September 14th, the member, Lennox Linton, leader of the opposition, wrote a letter to the clerk of the House, and I feel obliged at this stage to read the letter to the House. It reads, "Dear Sir, the following items standing in my name on the order paper for the second meeting of the fourth session of the 9th Parliament on September 20th are gross misrepresentations of my actual written submissions to the House of Assembly and should therefore be withdrawn. 1. Question to the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Housing and Land, re-debt forgiveness for Venezuela. 2. Question to the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Investment, Housing and Lands, re-citizenship by investment. And 3. Motion for a vote of no confidence in the leadership of the Prime Minister, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit. Members should recall that because of the passing storm and trying to keep up with the timeline, when the order paper came to the members, not the order paper, yes, the order paper, there were certain errors, omissions, which we sought to include by an email. I don't know if members remember this. 2 such omissions had to do with, number 1, the business of the Venezuela funds, and the second one dealt with the motion. As far as I know, the questions as it relates to the citizen by investment, barring what the member was told could not go on the other paper, so he was aware of beforehand, I expected that he would have then decided to ask his other question. And he did not. That is the question which was rectified, the one dealing with the debt forgiveness of Venezuela. So when it came to the fact that he seemed to have disregarded the omissions that were now included for the question as it related to the debt forgiveness for Venezuela, it is reasonable to conclude that he continued with his letter, and the only question he read was the one relating to Hansard. So I don't know why he went about giving the impression that his vote of no confidence was refused, and he was therefore saying that it has to go on the order paper. I have with me the two times that he submitted. The first time that on the first occasion that the leader of the opposition submitted his motion for vote of no confidence, he did so, a vote of no confidence in the leadership of the Prime Minister, Honorable Roosevelt Sefton, and his cabinet. He also had phrases in there which the standing orders disallow. He was told so, and he resubmitted. One or two of the clauses that he was told that could not be put on, he left out, but he still included others. And by then, too, he decided that he was not going to include the cabinet. So when the second draft, if you want to call it that, was submitted for his vote of no confidence, it was only in the leadership of the Prime Minister, but there were still two clauses which could not go on, which he had been told before about. So therefore, we went ahead and we put it on the paper. As I said, something was left out. The second whereas was left out. We included it, but he didn't seem to feel that he wanted to go on with his paper. And so he can't then turn around and say that, oh, we ignored his vote of no confidence. In fact, he didn't stand up. I watched and I saw he did not move. And it's manifestly wrong of members to go out there and give an impression foreign to what has happened in the House. And I'm so glad that we have the cameras, and the cameras are telling what exactly is happening. The leader of the former leader of the opposition, the member for Salisbury, did the same thing. He submitted a question relating to Ross Medical School. He was told by the clerk that certain points in his question could not be entertained given the standing order provisions. As the clerk relates to me, he got the impression that he understood, but then right there and then he says, oh, he's not changing his paper because somebody told him that's how he should do it. I told the clerk, when members tell you things verbally, please write them. So he was written a formal letter telling him that he should check these standing orders and resubmit his question. Instead, he chose to go and tell the world out there that the Speaker of the House doesn't want to accept any questions about Ross University. That was his interpretation. Now, I don't know how I can get members to understand what they read. I don't know if their side has somebody who can explain things to them. And this is why this morning I decided, look, there is a legal issue that members may not understand. And so I'm giving the member, who is the lawyer on their side, an opportunity to see what the case is about. All he has to do is take the citing and go away and look for his own copy. So that at least he had it when the leader of the Attorney General was reading from the script. He can explain to his members what it is. Instead, he stood up on a completely different tangent. I do try, members, but I'm not always successful. This is the end of my announcements.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House be adjourned, sine die.
It has been moved and seconded that this honorable house be adjourned sine die. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. This honorable house stands adjourned sine die.